So here's how not to tell the story of the Monkees. Toward the end of the film Daydream Believers, the Monkees read this scathing critique of their performance in Head. Their complete lack of distinction of any kind, the fact that fame was stamped on them as it might have been on any nice four utterly undistinguished boys, makes their performance modest and almost brave. They work very hard and they aren't any good. When you make a film based on a true story, you choose the facts you want to dramatize. Interesting, because in the same New York Times article was this little gem, dreadfully written by Jack Nicholson, while the Hollywood Reporter actually praised the Monkees for being a talented group, the blame for any deficiencies placed elsewhere. So why did the producers choose these words? Well, all films have a controlling idea, or thesis, that frames the story and that is most clearly stated at the end of the movie. This, sadly, is Daydream Believers. And so, we have a scene of how hype, plus the promise of long hair and guitars, caused the girls to scream before the Monkees had even played a note of music. And we hear lines like, "You guys would be nothing without us. We picked you up off the street and made you what you are." All in support of the thesis that fame was stamped on four utterly undistinguished boys. See why the haters love this film? So, let's try a little experiment. Just focusing on Michael, let's dramatize a different set of facts. Michael was a published singer-songwriter with a recording contract, whose music so impressed the producers they asked him to produce the Four Monkees in the recording studio. But then Kirshner rejected his music, and Nesmith had to fight to get a couple of cuts on each album. He was much more involved in the early days than indicated. Where were those scenes? And instead of the nonsense of the four guys acting like goofballs in the studio, how about a scene where a serious Michael produces one of his album cuts while confidently directing the Wrecking Crew? How about dramatizing what really happened in swinging London? John Lennon invited Michael to stay at his home, where Lennon solicited Nesmith's opinion regarding acetate of Sgt. Pepper. Then Michael rubbed shoulders with rock royalty as an invited guest at the recording of A Day in the Life. Sounds like Lennon had respect for the Monkees' musicianship, doesn't it? These scenes, unlike the ones in the film, generate respect for Michael's music, something not found in the film's thesis. And guess what? Choose a different set of facts for the other three Monkees, and they won't support the film's thesis either. For example, instead of the ridiculous scene where they discover that Headquarters had been ousted from number one by one of the greatest albums ever and they react like clueless clowns, how about making it clear how proud they were that Headquarters was anything but a failure, holding the number 2 spot right behind Sgt. Pepper for 11 weeks? And the Beatles are not the reason the boys stopped recording as a band. Somebody said something to someone, so to speak, that led to Mickey not drumming on another album for 30 years. Now there's something worth dramatizing. So, if to make Daydream Believers certain facts were selected, or just plain fudged, to support the film's thesis, what thesis or controlling idea does a different set of accurate facts support? Well, here's a clue in the word tellingly left out of the original New York Times review. Hucksters. That fame was stamped on them by hucksters. Interesting. Because the real story of the Monkees? Well, it's as old as Hollywood itself.